they're just such amazing machines. To think they were built, 80 years ago now at this point. They're still they're so fast. They're so just like awe-inspiring and powerful, but yet so simple. And to think of the people who flew them as well. Looking inside the cockpits of some of them, and they're not comfortable
Really?
in the slightest. They don't look like they would be very fun to fly for 5 to 6 hours, straight for long distances and under high stress. But young men did it day in and day out, and that's so inspiring to me. Hello.
Hello, Jon.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. It's so lovely to meet you here on Zoom.
It's lovely to meet you as well.
Tell me, where are you based?
I'm in Salt Lake City area of Utah.
Oh, okay. So it's so great. I spoke to your dad about his career in aviation, and it's so lovely that you also you're willing to talk to me and tell me your story, because you are still training to be a pilot. Am I right?
Yeah.
So first, tell me, what was it your dad that inspired you to become a pilot?
Yeah, I would say so. I think my first memory that I can distinctly remember of my dad is actually packing up the family pickup truck and driving all the way about 9 hours away to go to an air show when I was probably 4 or 5. And just walking around my dad, asking him questions, just being a thrilled little kid, being surrounded by all these cool airplanes, not really understanding a whole lot, but having basically a walking encyclopedia with me of aviation that I could ask. And then that became like a routine for us of going to air shows every single year that we could squeeze in, in the summer whenever I didn't have school, or I could take a day or two off and go somewhere. So I'd say that just growing up around my dad, being around aviation in my life, it was just, I always kind of knew that that's what I wanted to do.
Really? Well, so from a young age, was there something that you thought you wanted to be a pilot?
Oh yeah. I think from the very first time I was ever asked the question, what do you want to be when you grow up, or what do you want to do for a career? I think it's always been pilot. So.
But now you had the example of your dad being a pilot, so you could see the work that goes in, or the dedication and the hours, and it also must have been that your dad was away for times, because it's also that part of being a pilot that you have to sacrifice that family life.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I guess it just kind of comes with the trade. But yeah, I grew up, I saw how much work my dad put into it because he was so passionate about it. And he was always one to appreciate what he did and feel lucky that he was able to pursue his dream. He loves his family and he hates being away from them, but he understood, that's kind of just part of the world that he was going into. And he did everything he could, though. He stayed at a regional airline, so mostly does day trips and whatnot, so he could at least be home almost every night. Every once in a while he'd be gone for days on end, but usually he tried to work it so he could at least be home somewhat regularly. And I was definitely appreciative of that growing up, because I know how much flying meant to him, and I know how much of a dream career it was for him. So for him to sacrifice some of that for us was definitely a big help.
Yeah, because you're also in it now, and you also know what are the sacrifices that you're having to make to get to your license and to build up your hours and so on. So but did you also from a young age understood the the safety around it, and the the how can I say, all those logistics around it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, going to air shows, you see basically the best of the best when it comes to pilots from all around the world, from Europe, Asia, North, South America. Every single pilot that wants to come and share their love for aviation with others and show off their skills. You see how much dedication and skill it takes because they're doing such a dangerous thing in aspects, right? Because humans are never really meant to fly. It's something that we figured out on our own, and the
Yeah.
freedom of it has kind of have driven us mad, maybe, of trying to get into the sky. But I definitely knew, watching air shows, seeing some close calls, some accidents, that it's dangerous,
Mm.
and then you have to be calm and collected because it can be stressful. I've already felt stress in flying and moments where it's a little scary, but you have to be calm and you have to understand, um, that if you're not calm, that only makes the problem worse. So being safe, definitely a big part of it, and obviously logistics as well. Like you were saying, I mean, I'm sure my dad talked to you about how many hours it takes and whatnot
Yeah.
to be like an airline pilot or to do any of these other things. It takes a lot of commitment, and then a lot of flying, which is not cheap. So the logistics side of it is
Yeah.
definitely a big aspect.
This is also something that I speak to everybody about because it's one thing to have the dream and to really want to do it, but there's another thing as well. An expensive training, and it's something that you also have to take into consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big expense. There's obviously the fuel for the planes, insurance, and then just the hours of having an instructor with you. You got to pay the instructor. You got to pay, for all these different things to allow you to fly, and it adds up quick. Um, and But it's worth it. You have to have that kind of mindset going into it. Like, this is really what I want to do, and I know I'm gonna make this money back, but I've gotta take this initial loss, and that can be really hard for a lot of people. I've talked to some people that I was training with at my flight school who it was just too much money for them, and they really didn't have the desire that bad to fly. They just thought it would be a fun career, but not really their dream. So they ended up, getting a little bit sticker shock from the price tag and ended up deciding to go elsewhere. And that's fine. But if like you said, if it's your dream to do something, I don't think anything should get in the way of that. Price, time, whatever. If you're dedicated, if you're willing to do it, I think the sky's the limit. Obviously, for a pilot, right? The sky's the
Yeah,
limit.
yeah. But where are you now in your training? So you've got your license, and do you have your commercial license already?
So right now, I just have my private license. So I still have a couple more licenses to go. So I've just been working on those, practicing those for commercial, and so I can further this.
So you have to now build up hours to get to the next license, basically.
Yeah, yeah. So you have to do basically hours that are the training for the type of license you want to do. Um, and then you're given a check ride. So you'll have somebody from here in the U.S., somebody from the FAA, will come and do an exam, make sure that you are knowledgeable as well as skilled. So they'll do like a ground portion where they'll ask you a bunch of questions, basically like an exam for any other type of like test or school, and then you'll get into the airplane and they'll evaluate you on several skills. So right now I'm working on my instrument rating, which just allows you to fly into conditions where otherwise you couldn't really see visually, and you're just relying on the instruments of the airplane. So anytime you're flying in bad weather or clouds or anything like that, obviously a really important rating to have to be a safe pilot, because weather's so unpredictable.
Yeah.
That's basically how the process works. And then you got to, like you said, you got to build the hours for that specific type of flying. So you got to say, I have this many hours of flying instruments only before, I can get that license.
So this part where you do the instrument flying, do you have to fly with an instructor then?
Yes, yeah, you do.
Okay. Mm. But now, how do you keep motivated? Because there must be times where it's like feeling slow,
Oh
because you
yeah.
have to. I always think if people say 1,000 hours, then I think, well, it's an hour and an hour and an hour up till build up until that amount. It's quite a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's like, I don't know. I always think of it as like you're standing at the bottom of Mount Everest or K2 or something, staring up at the
Yeah,
top
I
and
can
everything go get
imagine.
there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like you said, it's just an hour at a time. It's just one step at a time to climb a mountain, one flight at a time to build your hours. And I think you can get too focused on the goal, but you can also lose sight of the goal at the same time. So I think it's good to have a healthy balance of realizing, the goal is far away, but that's still what I'm going for, and that's going to be so rewarding to get there. But then maybe breaking that down into smaller goals. I found that really helpful of just being like, okay, this week I've got to do this, this, and this. So let's make sure I get all those done. Set that as a goal, and just take it, 1 or 2 weeks at a time. And that's really helped me to not get so overwhelmed by the, oh my gosh, I gotta fly so many hours and I'm never gonna get there. To just be like, what can I do today? What can I do this week to help towards that?
But now, so you can't fly people around now. You can't have passengers. But now, what can you do with the license that you have to build up the hours? Because I just spoke to a pilot and he said that this is the catch-22 situation in flying, is that you have to have the experience or the hours, but you have to build up the hours.
Yeah, so currently all I can pretty much do is I can just fly for recreation purposes and for training purposes. I can carry passengers as long as there's only as long as it's a small amount and not for hire, for money or anything like that. It's like a family trip or something like that. But mainly just training is probably the best way to just build up hours and just to go practice different things that you've learned. And just build up those hours towards those next licenses.
And so, how many hours do you have to do for the next license? That's then the commercial one?
Yeah, I believe I have about another 150 to go. I think I think you need about, well, let me see. Probably need about another 100. I think you need about 250 hours total for that. And then, but once you earn that license, then you can officially start making money, doing little jobs here and there. But that's what allows you to make money, and that's the best way to build time, is just to do commercial stuff like that.
But in America now at the moment, so where you are, is there do you see a future? So that's also something where you think, okay, so at least when I get there, then at least I can start earning money from flying. Is there's the possibilities for you?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of things here that you could do commercially. A lot of people fly like freight around to build up those hours to go to an airline. They can fly, boxes for whatever, postal service, DHL, UPS, or whatever. People will do a lot of like tours, like they'll fly people around the Grand Canyon to see it from the air, around other scenic parts of the country. And then a lot of survey. That's kind of what I've been looking into. Survey work for like logging companies or power line companies or like oil industries. They need a lot of surveys for what they're going to plan on doing, or what they already have in place, to make sure that it's already, or everything's all well maintained and everything. because it's a lot of ground to cover. So doing it by air is pretty much the best way to do it. And that's a great way to build time that I've looked into and researched so far, because you're flying a lot, and it's consistent because they always need that work done. So.
Oh yeah, yeah. But you also have to now, every time you go, you fly a specific plane, you have to also have that license for that. So you cannot just get into an aeroplane and fly it. So every time you have to have a license. Is that right?
Right. So you don't need like a specific license. The only thing you would need a license specifically for is like an airliner. You would need what's called an ATP. But you definitely wouldn't want to just go and jump in any plane and just go. So a lot of times people will get checked out. They'll just go with an instructor that's proficient in that plane, and they'll fly with you, show you, the ins and outs of this plane, show you everything. And then they might do like a little bit of an exam, make sure that you're safe in that plane and they feel comfortable endorsing you. And then once you're like endorsed for that plane by an instructor, then you can fly it. So.
Now, how much do you learn from your dad? Do you fly with him, and do you do you exchange that sort of? Does he give you advice and things like that?
Oh yeah, all the time. We'll sit down and we'll talk. If I have a question about something, or we'll like kind of come back, reconvene at the end of the day sometimes, and be like this. He'll be like, "This is what I did. This is where I was flying." Like, we'll hear each other on the radio sometimes because we fly around the same airspace, and then we'll just kind of talk and I don't know. We just really like indulge in aviation too. We'll be watching videos of new planes or new things that have come out together, and just talking, going back and forth. So he's been a huge help. Just always somebody I can just go to. He actually helped me on my check ride for my private pilot. I was struggling with a maneuver, and I was like, "Dad, I just don't know how to like really nail it down." And he gave me some tips and tricks, and I tried them out, and it was 100% what I needed. And then I was able to go and pass that check ride, and now I have my private license. So huge thankful, or I'm really grateful to him for that. And
yeah,
it's always been amazing to have him.
I can just imagine that it's a great thing that you share. Something that's really special that you both understand.
Oh, absolutely. It's always kind of been our thing together.
Now, I've just spoken to a pilot also, and we talked about the old airplanes, the warbirds that you call them. Do you have an interest in those?
Oh, absolutely. That's my favorite type of aircraft. They're these old classic World War II, especially. I don't know. There's something about them. I've always been kind of a history buff as well. So anything to do with World War II has always been fascinating to me, because it's such a pivotal and sad, but also so important time in human history. But these planes are just they're so raw, and they're just so built for one purpose alone, that it makes them, I don't know, almost magical, I guess you would say. But they're just such amazing machines. To think that they were built, 80 years ago now at this point, but they're still they're so fast. They're so just like awe-inspiring and powerful, but yet so simple. And to think of the people who flew them as well. Looking inside the cockpits of some of them, and they're not comfortable in the slightest. They don't look like they would be very fun to fly for 5 to 6 hours, straight for long distances and under high stress. But young men did it day in and day out, and that's so inspiring to me. That, like, if they could do that back then, in those planes while getting shot at, I think I can do it in a much more comfortable modern plane while not getting shot at. So
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I don't know. I always loved them. It would be my dream to fly them one day. it's just they're getting harder and harder and rarer and rarer as time goes.
But this is a very lovely that you say that you also interested in it. And do you think it's important that you, as young pilots, also do that? You know, that you have a feel of that you get this experience of this very raw, this very basic way of flying compared to what you are used to now. I mean, I'm sure that the airplanes that you're flying now are just a world apart from those ones.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Um, I think I think it's super important for younger pilots to appreciate where we came from, um, and understand that kind of the largest group of pilots that were ever raised up was because of World War II. I mean, there's thousands of pilots from hundreds of different countries. And to understand these old planes and to appreciate them, I think is super helpful, for pilots to understand where we came from, and to understand how privileged we are to have the amenities and the technology that we have in planes today that makes things so easy. And then just the skill in flying those old planes as well. They're super hard, bucking Broncos, if you will, to fly sometimes because they're so powerful and so basic. There's nothing really helping you but yourself. So it takes a lot of skill to fly those. And I think appreciating the planes and the men and women who flew them is just so helpful.
But now, you're still now young, and you're still now at the start of everything. But still, if somebody comes to you and say, how what advice can you give someone who wants to now get their license, and who's also like got a passion for aviation? What would you say to them? What would be the first advice?
I think the most important thing is just to really want to do it. I know that sounds really basic, but you have to really see yourself through that goal and be like, I really want to do this. Aviation really is my passion because it's hard. You'll get really bad days and really hard times, and you're like, I just don't know. There's so much information to learn. It's just so many things to learn all at once that it can become overwhelming that people just quit. But you just gotta love it, and you just have to kind of be your own advocate, and your own critic in a lot of ways as well. You're not going to be a perfect pilot. I don't think you're ever going to get there, and so you're gonna have rough landings. You're going to be feeling down on yourself, and you may not feel ready for something, but you have to be there to tell yourself, hey, I need to work on this, or hey, it's okay. Like, it's just training. We got to do it another day. We'll get better at it. But also be willing to stand up for yourself. A lot of flight schools and instructors looking to try and push students to do things that they're not ready for or that they don't feel comfortable with yet, and that can be a really dangerous situation. I've seen people that are pushed into things that they aren't ready for yet. That's just a super bad recipe for disaster. So standing up for yourself in that regard too, I think is a big thing. Just saying, hey, like, this is my goals in training, and if I'm ready to do it, then I'm going to tell you that, and this is how we're going to get there, and sticking to that work.
But now, what are the wishes for you now for the future? Where are you heading? What is the goal now?
Well, for right now, I just want to finish getting all of my training done, and beyond that, I would love to apply for our National Guard here in the U.S. I think that'd be really cool to experience some of the military side of aviation. In a capacity that I could do it as well as flying for the airlines, because that way you can kind of do both, just to experience a wide range of planes, but also just to become more involved now on the pilot side of things in terms of like just being an aviation fan all my life. I've always kind of sat on the sidelines, watching air shows and whatnot. I'd love to fly in an air show someday. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but I would love to try and find my way to that. I think that would be really fun to share that passion with, kids that I see myself in, just, wide-eyed and loving aviation. I would love to be able to share that passion with those kids and give them that love that other pilots gave to me when I was younger.
Yeah, it's that giving back, because you know what it feels like to stand there and to watch and to have the dream. Amazing. I think I was in South Africa at a air base, and there was a museum, and there were young children, boys and girls, cleaning the aircraft. The other ones that are in the museum, and they come every Saturday, and they come and they clean the hangars and they clean the aircraft. They dust them, and I spoke to a few of them, and that already at that age, this absolute love for aviation, for these aircraft. You think it's so amazing that they do that, for a Saturday to come and clean the hangars. It was wonderful to see.
Oh yeah. Just seeing kids just love aviation is just so it just reminds me of me, and that just makes me so happy that they're finding a passion that so many other people have, and that I want to share with as many people. It's just awesome to see young people engaging in it.
Yeah. Well, Jon, this was so lovely to talk to you. It was so great to talk to your dad as well, and now talking to you. And it's also lovely to hear the story, where you have, both of you have the same love for aviation, and I'm sure you're going to still learn a lot from him. And I wish you all the best for your journey, or your path, or your flight path for the future. Yeah, it just looks as though it sounds as though you have everything. Where you're going, and what it takes to get there. So that's so wonderful to hear that also at your age to do that.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was awesome to just share my love of aviation on the platform, and kind of a little bit of voice, and
Yeah.
just hopefully somebody is inspired that's thinking about flying to just go ahead and do it. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jon, and have a lovely afternoon, and send my regards to your lovely dad as well.
Thank you. You as well. You have a great day.
Okay, thank you. Bye.